You are Locked On Mavericks POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Dallas, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Here we go. The streak continues. What a win, what a finish, and what a rally for the Mavs, who come back and stun the Memphis Grizzlies tonight, 121-116. Welcome in to the Locked On Mavericks POSTCAST, your home for the best Dallas Mavericks post-game coverage. My name is Jeff Biggs. I'm a longtime host and reporter. Happy to be with you after this game tonight. Happy to be with you after one of the better wins. It seems like all these wins on this now 5-game winning streak for the Mavs have been fun, but man, a lot to get into for this one. Thank you for watching Locked On Sports Dallas, your destination after every single game. You can also find us on the Locked On Mavericks podcast feed with the great work there by Nick Anstead and the crew. Today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Well, coming up on our episode and our time tonight, how did the Mavs come back from 15 and win this game when nothing was going their way, nothing was there the entire game long? How did they come back and win this? How was the first head-to-head matchup between Luka and Ja Morant? They hadn't been on the same court together since October of 2022. We'll get into the numbers of their tail of the tape and their head-to-head matchup. And what does this win mean for the Mavs, not only for the Cup in the near future, but the big picture? And you got to give me a couple minutes to call out the NBA schedule makers, and we'll tell you why. But again, thank you for being with us. Again, this is the Locked On Mavericks POSTCAST. Again, the Mavs coverage, and this team is so special that we have this special post coverage along with, again, the great work that Nick and the crew do over there. But I have to say, what a win tonight, 121-116. It was one of those games where over the course of an 82-game season, there's some games where it's just not your night. It's not a lack of effort. It's not a lack of will. It's not a lack of trying. It's just not your night. You know, these guys fly around and they go all over the place and they have these crazy schedules and play a bunch of different games. And I'm not using that as an excuse because every team does it, but just some nights are just not your night. And as this game was playing out, I was just waiting and going, man, okay, this is just, where is this team that we've seen that had won 4 in a row and 8 of 9? Where was this team? And you know, when the game started, and let's kind of go back to the beginning, you know, every single game that we've watched, you've had no idea who's going to play. You've had no idea who's going to be available literally for like the last 3 weeks. So we're waiting for the starting lineups, and we find out, oh, cool, Clay's back, Derek Lively's back, Kyrie's back, awesome. And you're thinking, man, okay. And I was really pumped looking forward to this game. You got the number 3 team in the West, the Grizzlies. You got the Mavs, currently the number 5 team, but finally getting back up near the top where they belong. And I'm thinking, okay, awesome. I mean, this is going to be just a nice heavyweight playoff type of vibe. And it felt like that way, you know, early on, a little bit in the beginning. And then all of a sudden it just got, just the energy kind of went down, and the Grizzlies were just kind of doing their thing. And all of a sudden, you know, it's kind of close at halftime. The Grizzlies went on a 12-0 run in the second quarter. And you're just kind of waiting for the Mavs to get going. And then it got really ugly in the third quarter. I mean, the Grizzlies come out of the locker room, start with a 10-0 run, and you're thinking, okay, I mean, it's just not the Mavs night. It's going to be one of those games. And then all of a sudden, the Grizzlies just got kind of lazy. They got kind of sloppy. They just committed some really dumb fouls. And all of a sudden, the Mavs are in the bonus, and all of a sudden the game just completely started going the other way in the fourth quarter. And then it got under 10, and then it got to 6, and you're thinking, well, okay, now they're right there. I mean, it's a 2-possession game with over 3 minutes left. And to their credit, they felt it, and they seized it, and they stepped up, and they made big shots. And that was a gutsy gut check win. I mean, it's easy. Look, every team in the league is going to have a great game. Even the worst team in the league is going to have one of those games where they're just everything goes their way, all the shots fall. But when we have these weird nights like tonight where, I mean, just the energy's not there, it's just not falling. Your stars aren't doing their thing. To kind of hang in there and just keep fighting, and just staying in the moment. Possession, and not quitting and not giving up. Tell you what, I don't want to go overboard here, but again, I keep saying it. With this group, it's about getting the championship. It's not about making the playoffs. It's not about this cup. It's not about a playoff run or even making it to the finals. The goal is to win the title, to win the NBA championship. And good teams, and I think Harp was talking about it during the TV broadcast, but I've said this for 30 years, and I covered Harp when he played, when I was a young buck getting into the business, and he was still playing. But yeah, he's absolutely right. I mean, big time players make big time plays, and big time teams win big time games. And this was a good solid gut check win, because look, it's one game out of 82, and certainly we're in the beginning of December, but just for the progression of this team and for where they want to go, and for this, because again, it doesn't matter last year's team and that run, none of it doesn't matter. I mean, now it's a whole new season, whole new run. You got to go through the whole battle again. You got to do it all over again. You got to win those games in the playoffs. So this group, as it's constructed with these players, they have to do their own thing. Last year, it doesn't matter. As great as it was, they have to make their own path, and they have to do their own thing. And so you get wins like this, and they really go a long way. And it really, to me, says a lot about the character. Just like I've said during this streak, I mean, the win the other night, to have all those guys out and to have Luka come back and to step up the way that they did and to win the way that they did in Portland was great. And, coming back home and just getting this win, because, it's that's the goal. I mean, you're when you go up against a team like a Memphis, or you go up against a contender, they are, yeah, it's a regular season game. It's not a playoff series, but those are telling, and those are great measuring stick games and great opportunities to kind of see where you're at. And on a night when clearly, I mean, that was not, that's, if they would have lost that game, I mean, that would have been the worst loss of the season, I think. I mean, the Phoenix loss was pretty bad, but I think of the 8 losses that the Mavs have had, this would have been not only the worst, the way the game was going numbers wise, but I think just the way that they played, it was their worst performance for sure. I mean, collectively, it just was not, except for Luka. I mean, Luka just very quietly did his thing. Didn't feel the same as it did the other night when he came back. But although, man, I mean, that pass that he made to Derek Lively in the first half, was it the first half of the third quarter? Third quarter, yeah, the beginning of the third. When that, I've seen a lot of great passers over the years. I mean, Magic was the best, but man, that zip, I mean, the speed and the quick, just the zip that he threw on that ball to Lively for that alley-oop was just, that was unreal. I mean, that's a big time play. So a lot of guys stepped up though. I mean, Spencer Dinwiddie stepped up with some big time shots. PJ Washington stepped up. Kyrie, finally, we were waiting for Kyrie to get going. Didn't have a big night. Don't know if he's still hurting, but he did his thing. Luka just very steadily. You just blink and oh wow, Luka's got 37. I mean, that's just how good he is. But Lively looked great coming back, and they kept grinding, and they didn't give up, and it was a very, I thought, like I said, a very solid win. And it says a lot to me when you can have a performance like they did tonight and still find a way to pull it out, number one. And number two, this goes back to, want to see the Mavs get back to a place where they don't lose at home, period. Like that, they just don't lose at home. That's the goal. That's the objective too. And so to come back the way that they did and to pull that out and to grind it out was very, very impressive. A lot of good stuff, a lot of good things. So let's get into it. What about the head-to-head matchup between Luka and Ja Morant? We'll get into some of the other numbers. And then again, hey, congrats. Season number 2 of this cup, NBA Cup, and the Mavs have made it. They have made the quarterfinals. They will play next week on the road somewhere as they'll go up against the number 1 seed, but they're in. And the way that this team has played and the way that everybody's finally coming back, I like their chances. I like their chances to absolutely make a run. And wouldn't that be fun? So we'll get into that. And at some point before we go, I will call out the NBA schedule makers for sure. Just I think you'll be surprised when you hear what I have to say about this. And I don't like to whine. I don't like to complain. I really don't. And again, everybody plays the same amount of home games and the same amount of road games. But I just thought this was really, really odd when I took a deeper dive. So we'll get into that when we come back. Mavs, though, get a huge win. They beat the Grizz tonight, 121-116, the final. This is the Locked On Mavs postcast. All right, I want to let you know about Prize Picks. Is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money, sports action. You can join over 10 million users and sign up today. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Sign up today, get $50 instantly when you play 5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this basketball season. Which players are going to go off, which ones aren't. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds, and you can turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, real easy. Download the app, use code LOCKEDONNBA today, get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. And that also leads us into game time, which maybe you were at the game tonight, right? Maybe you saw Scooby score a couple of baskets at halftime or during one of the breaks of the third quarter. Maybe you thought Scooby was going to make all the baskets. The dog, remember the little dog. All-in pricing, toggling this feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. And what I love about Game Time is the seat views. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. The lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage, okay? Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Time for us to get back. All right, the Mavs get the win, 121-116, the final. All right, so we had the first head-to-head matchup in this game tonight between Luka and Ja Morant. Couldn't believe this, but that's probably why I was so pumped up for it. October of 2022 was the last time that they were on the same court together. I've said this before, like when Ja Morant is right, he's still not there yet. He's still not 100%, really hasn't been that way for a couple of years now. But when he's at his game, he's balling out. I mean, he's literally, we're talking about tickets. I mean, he's a guy I would pay to see play. I mean, Luka, Kyrie are obviously they're givens, but I'm saying outside of the Mavs, I just love watching that guy play. So how did they do head-to-head? Well, Luka in his second game back after missing the time with the wrist injury, almost 2 weeks. 40 minutes for Luka, 37 points, 10 of 16 at the line, 11 of 22, including and then 5 of 9 from three-point line, 13 of 32. I'm sorry, that was the team. 11 of 22 for Luka, 5 of 9 from three-point, and he had 12 rebounds and 4 assists. So very solid game for Luka. Ja Morant only had 4 points at halftime, so he really got it going in the second half. Ended up with 31, also 11 of 22, but he was 3 of 6, not 5 of 9 like Luka, and he only went to the line 7 times compared to 10 for Luka. Also only had 2 rebounds and 4 assists. So round 1 here in 2024 goes to Luka. But looking at some of the other numbers, the Mavs, again, we were waiting, and I thought the big key was the fourth quarter, obviously. I mean, they were down by 15 at one point. The Grizz came out 38-22. They won the third quarter. You're thinking, okay, ugly loss, bad. And, we loved the other night when the Mavs scored 40 in the first quarter. They score 39 tonight in the fourth, outscoring the Grizz in the fourth quarter, 39-21, and get a huge win pulling away. We mentioned some of the. I was getting worried because for like 3.5 quarters, it was Luka and Lively. They were the only guys for the Mavs in double figures, and you're thinking, man, the Mavs have had such a great run with so many guys, 6 or 7 guys every game getting into double figures. Well, they made up for it. PJ Washington ended up with 18, very impressive, including 4 threes, some really big shots. Lively ended up with 17 points and 11 rebounds, so a nice double-double for him. Kyrie, a very quiet 10, including 0 for 4 from beyond the three-point line, but still had a couple of baskets there in crunch time. I mean, he was trying. He was certainly off. I don't know if he was not feeling well. I don't know if his shoulder was still sore, but that was not a Kyrie game at all. But he still found a way to help out and still got open there down the stretch. We mentioned Luka's 37. Tough return for Clay, who was back after missing time with the plantar fascia. Don't know if that was bothering him at all, but Clay, a very quiet 4 points in 20 minutes. He was 1 of 5 from the field, including 0 for 3. Had a couple of really nice wide open looks and just did not knock them down. So maybe the road will get him going. He'll bounce back. He'll get it going at some point. No points off the bench for Maxey. Daniel Gafford ended up with 11 points. I mean, he had a really quiet 16 minutes off the bench, and I thought Gafford really worked hard and grinded hard the other night in the win in Portland. Spencer Dinwiddie, though, one thing about Dinwiddie, you watch him, he finished with 16 points, 5 of 10, 3 of 5. And I'm I don't like to read the box score all the time, but I just wanted to highlight on some of the numbers. And Quentin Grimes didn't have his a monster game, and his stretch of 20 points or more comes to an end for Quentin Grimes. But he did have 8 points, including a three, couple of baskets. But for Spencer Dinwiddie, I mean, he had those 2 huge back-to-back threes that really turned the corner. He had the go-ahead 3 that put the Mavs up, and then he hit the other one to extend the lead. And he's one of those guys where it was a weird night with the refs too, by the way. And I don't take any delight. I'm not one of those guys that rips the refs every single game, but the officiating was just a little bit off. It didn't seem like it was a crisp called game tonight, and seemed like Dinwiddie was just kind of struggling. Had a couple of weird calls go his way early in the game and never got going. But to his credit, as a pro, he just continues to play and to play and to play through that, and just kept going and didn't let any of that affect him. It was 111 to 108, and then 111 to 110. And then Dinwiddie hit the 3 to put the Mavs up 113 to 111. Went up, hit another one, 116 to 111. And then PJ Washington for 3, 119 to 113. The Mavs with a 10-0 run. And really from the 3:12 mark, they had a monster 16-2 run to blow the game open and to win it and to beat the Grizz. And that was just a gutsy performance. And just love the way that they finished and love the way that they all stepped up. So they ended up with 6 players in double figures. So I don't know what the streak was, but very impressed with that. The rebounding edge, they out-rebounded the Grizzlies 49 to 39. Memphis had the edge in assists. The Mavs also had 25 turnovers. I mean, that's ugly. You don't want that. But they still found a way to get it done. And I did not know. I mean, I knew that Memphis was number 3 in the West right now at the moment. I did not know the Grizzlies, though, were first in the NBA in points, in assists, and second in field goal percentage at 52%. I mean, that's they don't you watch them play, right? And you don't see them play. And yeah, we talked about, I mentioned Ja Morant, but when you watch them play, you don't think, oh, wow. I mean, these guys are awesome. They're the team to beat in the NBA. But statistically, really for the last couple of weeks, they've been playing at a really high level, came into this game with a winning streak, and all of that came to an end. And that, as good of a win as this was for the Mavs, I mean, this one's going to sting for the Grizz. I mean, that one's going to hurt for a little bit, because that was as good of a win as it was for the Mavs. That was a bad loss for them. But man, just can't say now. Spencer Dinwiddie it seems like I've been saying this now every game since that Miami game when he went 1 for 12. For him to hit those big shots the way that he did, I think Luka just very quietly, in addition to his 37 points, just the way that his presence on the court and all of the little things that he does every single possession, just kind of getting involved and just getting in the trenches, if you will, and just kind of leading the team with all the little things that he does on every possession. Just says so much, and it has to give everybody on his teammates just a nice boost for him to play that way. So great win for the Mavs. Great finish again, 39-21. The big threes down the stretch, the 16-2 run. You don't see that very often. I mean, we oftentimes see a tale of two halves. Like we'll see a team that maybe plays good in the first half, but then cools down in the second half, or a team that doesn't do great in the first half, but comes back in the second. But to have a game like tonight where, I mean, with like 5 minutes left, you felt like it was over right? And it wasn't even going to be close. And for the Mavs to literally flip the switch the way that they did and turn it on, very, very impressive. Like I said, you don't see that very often. All right, we're going to take our final timeout. When we come back, we'll get into the Cup a little bit, and also got to call out the NBA schedule makers. This is the Locked On Mavs POSTCAST. All right, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. December is here, and so is the holiday season. I look forward to just getting a little bit of time to slow down a little bit, spend some real quality time with my family, with my wife and daughters. But for some, this might be the time for therapy to get through the holidays and get into the new year, which is really helpful for many reasons, but helpful for learning positive coping skills, how to set boundaries. And it also helps and empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. So find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Give online therapy a try at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA and get on your way to being your best self. All right, so this is like my fifth, sixth, I don't know how many shows, but I want to go to the comments. We got Pomelo jumping in. He's fired up. He didn't get to see a lot of the game. Pomelo, thanks for jumping in, my man. Appreciate that. Yeah, it was a great finish, and like I said, not very often that you get to see literally a team kind of flip a switch that late in a game when it looked like it was just not going to be their night, and to come back in the final 5 minutes the way that they did, I think just says a lot about these guys and their tenacity and just their desire to win. And I think that quality, that character will bode well for them, not only in the near future, but hopefully in May and June for sure when it counts. All right. So I'm not big on excuses. I don't like whining and complaining, but I think this is worth pointing out. I did not realize it, but I thought, man, this schedule of the Mavs have been on, it's been kind of weird. It's been kind of different, right? I was excited. I'm thinking, okay, they've been on the road a lot lately. So great. They'll come back, they'll play Memphis. Well, they're leaving tomorrow to fly to Washington. So when you take a look at their schedule, right? Seriously, I take a deeper dive at the Mavs schedule. I mean, this is another first. And I understand. I know they're juggling things around and they have to make things work because of the Cup and all that. And I understand that. But take a look at this. I mean, the season tipped off in Dallas, that Thursday night game on October 24th. They got the win over San Antonio. Then they flew to Phoenix, came back home, played Utah, had a back-to-back at Minnesota. That right. So right after the game, right after that Utah win, they flew to Minnesota, won that game. That was one of the better wins of the season. All right. They come back Halloween night. They lose that game to the Rockets, but that was the start of a 5-game homestand. They played Houston, Orlando, Indiana, Chicago, and the Suns. All right. So you got 5 games. After that 5-game homestand, right? That 5-game homestand wrapped up on Friday, November the 8th. All right. Since that time, that's almost a month, right? Since that time, the Mavs have had 3 consecutive, and this will be 4 trips where they go on the road, come back home for 1 game, and then go back on the road. I mean, it's unbelievable. I've never seen that before. So after the 5-game homestand, they went to Denver, Golden State, Utah, came back, played San Antonio, went to Oklahoma City, came back, played New Orleans, then went to Denver, Miami, Atlanta, came back from that trip, came back, played New York, then went back on the road again to play Utah and Portland. They came back tonight to play Memphis, and now they're going to Washington and Toronto. I mean, so that's 4 trips, 4 trips and 1 game homestands. I've never seen that before, ever in my entire career covering the NBA. I mean, maybe it's happened before. I mean, the good news is you're getting a lot of these road games out of the way. And again, everybody has to play on the road. Everybody has to play at home. But I'm just saying, it's just kind of weird. You know, you come home, you're away for a week, come back from a trip, come home, play 1 game, go back on the road again. Really just kind of weird. But hey, you know what? To the Mavs' credit, how they responded, even with the travel, even with that weird schedule, even with the upper respiratory illness and all the nagging injuries and the different lineups every single game, they've won 5 in a row and 9 of 10 with arguably their best. I mean, it wasn't the win tonight wasn't the prettiest, at least for 3.5 quarters, but you're not going to get a better finish than that. I mean, the Minnesota win was great. The Denver win was sweet as well. I mean, you know, doesn't really matter, but this was really, really nice to get this win. And now they're in the cup too, for whatever that's worth. So that's going to be, you know, some bonus basketball coming up next week against the number 1 seed, and we'll see how far they can go. But in the meantime, they still have 2 road games coming up at Washington on Thursday. I'll be back with you after that. And then Saturday at Toronto for their trip to Canada to play the Raptors. Don't forget, I know Nick Anstead and the crew, Isaac and Slightly Biased, they're going to be doing their thing. Probably they're already doing it right now. And also, of course, during the week, without a doubt, the Mavs Locked On podcast is the best. And so make sure you check them out. Got a question asking if this is affiliated with Locked On Network or Locked On Mavs. Actually, both. So we're on Locked On. We're on the Locked On Dallas channel, right? But we're also part of Locked On Mavs. We're all teammates. We're all the same family, just different channel. And again, because the Mavs coverage and the demand is so strong because they have such a great base. This is just, look, Nick and the crew, they do the Locked On Mavs podcast every single day, you know, nonstop, wall to wall, and they're also on after the games as well. This is just a separate postcast. So we just come on after the games. Nick's a teammate. I'm just like, he's like I said, he's got, I think, the best coverage in the NBA for Locked On. And I'm just adding, you know, trying to add a little bit to that with this show, with these post shows, just to give a little more coverage because we feel like the Mavs deserve it. And we feel like just the fans, you guys, you want a little bit more and you want to talk more about the team and hear more about the team and spend a little more time with it. So the more we can bring and the more we can deliver, that's what we hope to do. All right. Hey, thank you. Again, thank you for spending time with me. It means more to me than you know. I appreciate it. I hope that get to check in and we'll do more of this, and love the comments. Please keep them coming. I'm getting myself more comfortable with this setup as well, a little bit different than radio. And I just love the team, love what they're doing, and can't wait to see this run and see this team play out and see how far they can go. But again, I think we all agree. I mean, that it's not pressure. It's just the truth. I mean, the truth is the goal is to win the championship. That's what the season is about. Unfinished business, get them back there. And, you know, you get these opportunities when you got Luka and Kyrie, you know, that's a special tandem, and NBA players in their prime, you know, they don't last forever. So you want to take advantage, and you want to win it when you can. And I think the Mavs absolutely have a great chance to do it. And so I'm looking forward to spending the time with you the rest of the way. Thank you. Enjoy tomorrow, and we'll be back with you again on Thursday night. Again, I mean, Washington's really, really bad. I mean, you talk about Thanksgiving. it's Thanksgiving already in our nation's capital. All right, this has been the Locked On Mavs postcast. My name is Jeff Biggs. We'll be back with you Thursday. Don't forget the Locked On Mavs podcast with Nick and the crew on the Locked On Network.